Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back in. We are on a brand new episode of the podcast, Ignite Your Glow. And we are back, you guys, with your favorite host, Jessica M. Harris. As many of you know, I am an empowerment life coach, a mom to three many versions of myself who I always say don't look like me, they tend to act like me on most occasions. I'm also an author, a motivational speaker, and you guys, so much more. So, today we're going to be diving into a topic that y'all already have been hearing me talk about, which is literally overcoming setbacks. And you guys, we are finishing off this year with the mindset of resilience. Why? Because you're going to need to be able to push through this next week, this last week of the year as we get ready to touch on 2025. And I don't want any of you going into the new year feeling discouraged or feeling as though you can't do it. No. Instead, I want you to feel recharged, renewed, and revived. So let's get into this conversation about how you're going to be able to build confidence and endurance in the midst of setbacks. So, for starters, let's talk about engaging with failure. Listen, in our achievement oriented world, failure oftentimes seems to be like this dead end. Many people view it purely as just a setback, as this clear sign to just stop or to reconsider. And no one thinks for a moment and says, hey, maybe we should flip this on its head, right? Like a coin. Maybe we should see on the other side what is really there. Truly, I'm telling you, when we can begin to embrace the failures or the things that aren't going our way, we begin to realize our greatest ally in all of this is our personal growth. Listen, this is where your resilience is going to begin kicking in. When you're able to recognize your setbacks as teachers, you can begin to foster resilience and innovation. And hear me when I tell you, this is when breakthroughs happen. This is when creativity begins to flourish. This is when new ideas begin to emerge because our setbacks are not just obstacles. They are truly vital stepping stones that are there on our journeys to success. And when we can begin to take some time and analyze some of the lessons that we've had that have been embedded within some of the failures, or when we're able to kind of pinpoint the things that did work or maybe even didn't work, we can acknowledge that we're laying down the groundwork for those breakthroughs to truly begin coming forth. Hear me when I tell you, this resilience that we're developing from overcoming these challenges is equipping us to handle life's unpredictability with confidence. Because we all know that in life, nothing is guaranteed, right? We know that we can be here today and gone tomorrow. We know that we can step outside and something can happen. And that's just being realistic, right? Things do happen in this world. And sometimes they're not, I want to say, not that it's not meant to happen, but at the same time, there could be things that could be avoided that do take place. And we want to be prepared from now by laying down a foundation. And listen, don't play trusting in God in the process. None of this is taken away from who God is. None of this is taken away that God is the almighty powerful one, period. But at the same time, we ourselves are human. We ourselves have emotions. We ourselves go through things. Life is not meant to just be a cakewalk. The word tells us that we're expected to go through trials. We're expected to go through tribulations. So we're gonna end up going through some things at one point or another within our lives. So being able to have that resiliency mindset from now when setbacks occur allows us to be able to stand firmer as we go forward. Now, let's touch on the nature of the misunderstandings that people come about when they think about what failure is. Listen, I've been there where things didn't go my way and I felt like I failed at something. Y'all, the shame that comes about, it's intense. That blame, the negative thinking, you guys, it skyrockets because there's something in you that just feels like, yo, you're not worthy, you're worthless, and all these other things start to kind of spiral out. And what we have to understand is that I feel like there's like this mechanism within the brain that does that. But that also comes about when we don't shift our mindset in the midst. Like if I just allow that failure or that setback to happen and I don't take the time to catch it, right, by the horns and be like, wait a moment. Wait, let me shift that thinking right here. Let me shift that perspective right here. Let me shift my thoughts. Let me reframe the situation right quick. If I don't take the time to reframe it, listen, using the word of God too, y'all, that is a powerful weapon in itself. If I don't do that, I'll succumb to those feelings of blame and shame and guilt, hands down. But when we are able to reframe a situation using the word of God, we acknowledge the power that the Bible has. We acknowledge that the power in the word of God is stronger than a two-edged sword that can cut through bone and marrow and soul and spirit. We acknowledge that who God is way more powerful than the current situation that we may find ourselves in right now. And as we do that, we also allow the lessons that we're gaining from the situations to show us that we are not valued based on this particular situation, that our value isn't coming from this setback, our value isn't coming from this failure. That our value is coming from who God says that we are, and that we're simply in a journey of learning, that we're simply on a journey of developing, that we're simply on a journey of seeking progress and not perfection. We have the ability to reframe the narrative. We have that ability is given to us. When the Lord tells us to use our words to call things forth that we don't see as though it is here, He's telling us we have power in our words. If He's telling us in Proverbs 18:21 that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and we eat the fruits of it, then he's telling us that what we say has power. So when we choose to speak out loud and reframe the narrative, when we can reframe the situation, y'all, it changes everything. Because if I speak out loud what God says about me, regardless of what my thoughts are trying to manipulate within me, then they're going to have to command themselves to shift. They're going to have to change because what I'm saying out loud, my brain is now taking in. And what my brain is taking in is now causing the gears inside of me to shift and to change. And as those gears begin to shift and as those gears begin to change, the thoughts that were once there that seem to be heightened now have to get stomped out because what I am speaking is more powerful than whatever it was that was trying to come up in the midst from the backlash of whatever I had just experienced. Some of you guys may call that a trauma response because that's what happens during during traumatic situations as well. But let's keep going. I really need you to understand that just because you've experienced this setback, this isn't a situation that's defining who you are. And I know I said it a moment ago, but I want to say it again. This situation, this setback, is not a definitive factor as to who you are. Listen, nor does it actually tell you what you're able to achieve either. Listen, people are going to sit there and be like, so and so, oh, they always try this and they always try that, and they're no good at X, Y, and Z. Y'all, get around some different people for starters. But number two, stop rebuking those statements and stop receiving everything that you're getting from people, especially with what they're telling you doesn't align to to who God is, to what God has said, or anything like that. Stop agreeing with it. Come out of that and continue to move forward. That was free. Listen, honestly, we have to also take into consideration this part that we need an awareness, right? Of how these setbacks are making us feel. We need an awareness to take place within ourselves to understand that this resiliency that is being built right now is going to take some time. There has to be some level of awareness within ourselves to captivate our thoughts to the obedience to Christ, but also to help us to understand that where we are right now is a moment where we're going to have to come out of our comfort zone. That where we are right now is a moment where we're going to have to embrace this territory that we're walking into where we may not have stepped into before. We're going to have to allow this be the opportunity right here where we're just like, listen, God, I'm trusting in you because when I tried it, maybe it didn't go so well. I'm going to try again, God, but I'm trusting that this time you're about to do what you said you're going to do. Or this time, Lord God, I'm trusting that the lesson was learned. Or I'm trusting, Lord God, that you're cultivating me to be able to keep getting back up because there's something down the line that's going to cause me to kind of stumble. And I'm going to need to be able to come back with the comeback swiftly. I'm just saying. Let this be the opportunity where you're listen. Oh man, I'm sorry, y'all. A statement just came to mind, and I'm like, that's not the way that I want to word it as. So the way that I want to word it as this: allow this to be a moment where you are developing a growth mindset that liberates you. In other words, it's freeing you from the fear of trying, or better yet, trying again. And I'm saying that because sometimes we get into this place where we're like, yo, I already tried. I already tried. And then we don't try again, or we don't want to jump into it again. And that's why I'm saying that part. Like, we have to understand setbacks are going to happen. It takes place. But the more we build up within the growth mindset, the more we build up in that resilient mindset, the more we're able to bounce back and bounce back quicker and more swiftly in the process. Now, building your endurance through those tough times isn't something that I would call smooth sailing, not by a long shot. Better yet, I'm going to say it's like gold that's refined in the fire. Y'all, it's going to get some heat. It's going to get some pressure. It's going to be like you in the thick of something. But just like a marathon runner who faces moments of intense exhaustion, and they're like, yo, I am tired, I am exhausted, but I'm willing to push through to the end because there's something about the mind that when our mind says we can do it, our body will begin to jump into a different gear. Because someone has said it before, and I forget where I saw it at, but I know I've heard it in the past where they were like, the body will give up before the mind does. Our bodies, y'all, they weak. Like, it's flesh. Come on now. It's flesh. It is what it is. But our minds are powerful. When we can think that we are able to do something, you guys, it doesn't matter what the obstacles look like in front of us. There's something that will begin to push inside of us that we'll just be able to thrust forward because our minds are convinced that there is no barrier or anything there that will stop us. That means that regardless of the physical aspects that may be in place, because our mind is believing that nothing can stop us, we're going to be able to continuously push through and push through and push through every single building block, period, case closed. But that takes time. That takes being forged in the fire. That takes being put under pressure. That takes allowing us to actually go through a situation to then come out of a situation. And sometimes we're so ready and willing to be like, hey, I want resilience. I want endurance, but no one's understanding that, okay, you say you want those things, but there's a process that gets you there. And we have to be willing to be processed in the process to then see the results of that progress that we're looking for. These experiences, y'all, they're not only shaping our minds, but they're shaping our character and they're shaping the ways in which we're able to tackle on future situations. Why? Because when we see things and challenges up ahead, we'll look at it from the perspective like, oh, been through something similar. Like it's saying this is a cakewalk for me now because I can push through with ease. Now think about a fighter that gets into a ring, right? When they first start fighting, it may be difficult, their breathing may be a bit staggered and all these other things. But as they keep fighting, as they continue to fight opponents, as they continue to build up their endurance, as they continue to do the training, as they continue to engage in these fights and in these battles, the more battles they've been in, the more that they're able to come against these opponents and not feel that same staggered breathing they did that first time around. The more that they engage with these opponents and the more that they keep training, the more they're able to come to the battle with a renewed energy. Cause they're like, yeah, I got you. I know what you did the the last time, but this time I'm ready, right? There's this renewed confidence. There's this renewed energy. There's this revival that's inside of them. Their body feels revived and like, nah, I got this. I got this. I got this. There's this life, right? That begins to spurt up inside of them in a different way. And they're able to be like, yo, I'm going to come back even harder on this next swing because I know the power that I carry and I know what's needed in order to take you down in this round, in this timing that I have against you this time. Let this be the opportunity where you grow in those experiences. Listen, what would it be like, for real, right? If everything came easily? Y'all, how would things go? Could we truly grow if everything seemed easy? Probably not, or probably not the ways in which we intend them to be, right? If everything came easily, what resistance would you have in order for you to go further? If everything came to you easily, how would you be able to know truly the capabilities that are within you if you didn't have something pushing back on you? When we get stronger, we're not constantly lifting up weights that are 5 pounds. No, when you're trying to gain muscles, you're lifting up weights that are 5 pounds, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, etc. Right? Why? Because you understand that once your body gets used to a certain weight, then you're going to have to add some more resistance in order to get stronger. You're going to have to add an extra level of, listen, of weight or bells or rings or whatever the pieces are that people use when they go to the machines and the equipments and stuff, right? Why? Because they understand that their capacity now has to stretch. And if their capacity isn't stretched by something that's heavier, they're not going to be able to gain the endurance that they're seeking. They're not going to be able to gain the extra strength that they're looking for. And it's not because they don't have the ability to do it, but it's because the situation didn't present itself in a way for them to be able to go through to then build it out. Ooh, we that's a I don't know. I feel like that's like a nail biter. Like y'all, like, oh my goodness. Why? Because the realization has to now hit you that you have to go through these things in order to be able to build yourself out for who you're called to be. Now, does that mean that you have to go through every single experience that you have gone through in life? No. But does it mean that you can definitely use what you have been through to become who God has called you to be? 100,000%. Period. Y'all, growth is going to require discomfort. I want to tell you, it's going to require it, right? Whether we're being tested in our skills, tested in our beliefs, our values, y'all, it's going to require us to get uncomfortable. If we stay in this comfortable state, right? If I stay in my bed all day long and I'm chilling, I got the blankets on, I got the covers on, like I'm cooling, y'all, I'm really motivated to have to do anything. Why? Because I already got it. But if I'm in a situation where I don't have the things that I'm needing, where I don't have X, Y, and Z, there's a drive that kicks in inside of me that is like, yo, I'm about to go for everything because I need X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's 6 degrees outside. Y'all, it's freezing, period, right now. So what does that mean? The body's gonna have to kick into a different type of gear in order for me to stay warm when I'm outside. Why? Because if it try to stay in this mellow state of what I'm in right now in the house where it's 70 degrees and I try to go outside like that, y'all, I'm gonna be too cold for words. But if my body can kick into the right gears that it needs to warm me up while I'm outside, then there's something else that's happening. Now, I am not a biology major. I cannot tell you the dynamics or the pieces that tie to that. I just know from my experience that there is something that begins to click in my brain that says Jessica's too cold. She needs to be warmed up. And the body begins to do something differently to then produce heat. Y'all, something has to be uncomfortable in order for something else to produce the results. I'm not saying it got to be that dire. I'm not saying it got to be that extra. I'm just saying, for the example's sake, that something has to be present for us to see something come out of it. So engage with the discomfort of setbacks. Allow it to open up opportunities. Allow it to bring forth some insights and understand Sometimes mistakes happen. Sometimes we misstep. Sometimes we misspeak. Y'all, the amount of times that I'll say something, I'm like, oh man, I wasn't even supposed to say it that way, or my words get twisted. I'm like, yo, God, oh, I'm so sorry. I tried, right? Let that be a foundation for you. Let that be what's helping you to create a pathway towards your goals because you understand that where you are right now, how you're speaking right now, how you're moving right now, how you're doing things right now is literally laying out a foundation brick by brick by brick into where you're heading towards. So when you can then compare the results of where you are today versus a year ago versus 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, down the line, whatever the case may be, you can be looking back like, yo, I did that. Come through, God. We was on a move in that area. Like, yo, God, I can't believe you allowed me to do those things. Like, yo, that's crazy. Thank you. Why? Because we understand that it's a process and that He's continuously working through us. I'm just saying. So, for those of you who may be like, okay, that's great and all, but what do we do for practicality, right? What is the strategy? What can we do? What is it that I need to be doing right now if I'm in this particular boat? Listen, I'm glad you asked because I got something for you. For starters, reflect back on your experiences. Y'all, I don't know about you, but I reflect pretty much daily about different experiences and situations. Now, sometimes I probably over reflect on things where I'm like, all right, God, I'm clearly thinking way too hard about this situation, right? And I need to move forward and move on because whatever I've gained from that, I've already gained the insight that I needed. Now it's time to use that insight, use the lesson for my advantage and go forward. Listen, but don't miss out on the lessons, right? Don't miss out on what's there. Don't miss out on what it is that he's showing you because those lessons are vital. Those lessons, listen, it's like school. Learn them now while the opportunity is here so you don't have to go repeating a lesson you already done been through. Still, listen, I'm just saying words, words from the wise, y'all. Don't have to go back into something that you don't need to, especially if you already have it in your bag. Pay attention to it and keep pushing. And also take this into consideration. Transforming a negative experience into a learning opportunity is going to help you to fuel growth. But not only is it really going to help you to fuel growth, it's also shifting how you see that situation. You ever have a song, right, that plays and you're like, I don't want to listen to that song because you used to date so and so when you was listening to that song way back in the day, but now every time you think about that song, it reminds you of that person and you want nothing to do with them. Y'all, reframe, reframe, reframe it, reframe it, reframe it, reframe it, reframe it. Why? Because when we reframe those situations and things that we've gone through and that we've experienced, it allows us to be able to use that situation as fuel for growth rather than something that we're avoiding altogether. Just saying. And speaking of reframing, y'all, reframe the narrative. Avoid labeling setbacks as failures. Y'all, I like to use the word stepping stones. That's just me personally speaking. That's what came to me a couple months back. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this stepping stones guy. Like, I don't know. That's just what came to mind, stepping stones. And it was crazy because I heard other people after the fact talk about stepping stones. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's not just me, right? Other people understand that setbacks are also stepping stones. And I was like, oh God, you were onto something when you were showing me that. So he was confirming that for me that when I can shift my perspective, when I can shift my mind on that thing, that I could then begin to do things differently and operate differently and move differently. And I'm like, oh, wow, got it. Thank you. Right. So when we reframe our thoughts, it empowers our actions and it allows us to, instead of going forth in fear, it allows us to feel empowered and encouraged. So we then have the confidence to do what it is that we're supposed to be doing in general. Also, listen, take time to celebrate. I know that like sounds like totally left field, but it's like, what you mean celebrate? Like, bruh, I just did da 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 da. Like, why would I want to be celebrating here? Understand. But I have learned from experiences in my past and a lot of loss that I have endured that gratitude is key for a lot of things. When I'm grateful just for like one, being alive, two, for God being God, and three, for just what it is that I have experienced and what I've gone through, because I understand that it's building me into the person that I need to become. And I understand that He's doing something, regardless if it was something that I should have gone through or not, He still uses it. Y'all, I celebrate. I celebrate the efforts that I made. I'm like, Jessica, maybe that didn't go the way that you wanted to, but I'm gonna give you just a round of applause right quick because you actually decided to step out on faith, or you actually decided to promote yourself, or you actually decided to be consistent even though you wasn't sure how it was gonna look. Listen, I'm gonna applaud you right there because the old you would have been like, yeah, I ain't about to do that. I'm good. But this version of you is like, you know what? God, I don't know how this gonna go. I'ma try, I'ma trust, I'ma see what happens, and fingers crossed, right? Like, and that's just me being honest. But I'm saying that part here because I'm not trying to focus on the results of what that situation came about as, but I'm looking at the concept that I was willing to try. I'm looking at the concept that I was like, you know what? I'm separating myself from the outcome, and I'm just gonna do it. And I'm just gonna see how it goes. And I'm just gonna trust in the process. And maybe my faith wasn't super strong when I tried it. Maybe my faith was lacking heavily when I did it. But I'm gonna celebrate the fact that it's like, listen, I tried. Why? Because now that means that I tried. I saw how it went. I saw how it felt. It wasn't as scary as I initially thought. Okay, God, we'll do that again. It wasn't that bad. Well, let me try it again. Why? Because I already got to experience what the initial effect was going to be. I already got to experience the setback that it brought. I already got to experience that. So now I'm not afraid of what the setback will look like because I know what it looks like. Now I can go into it and be like, yo, bump the setback here. We're going to try this again. God. And we're going to try it again and again and again and again and again because now I'm building up the resilience to bounce back despite what the setbacks may have looked like, or better yet, what the stepping stones may have tried to come out as. Number four, cultivate a supportive network. Listen, y'all heard me talk about that earlier. Where I said, if you got people who's looking at you like you're the person who always da 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 and does this or does that or doesn't do this or doesn't finish that or doesn't, all these things, right? Y'all, get you around some people who understand the concept of resilience. Get around, there's a compounding effect with that. Get yourself around some people who understands that triggers happen, but you have the ability to bounce back, to move forward, that you have the ability to go forward, that they can literally shift your perspective with their words during those tough times by encouraging you and empowering you. So get yourself a supportive network, whether that's in person, online, whatever the case may be, a community. Listen, y'all, go do it. Because when you're around some folks that understands what it looks like to go through some stuff and then come out on the other side of it, you'll be empowered and encouraged by their testimonies. Revelations 12:11 tells us what? That we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the sharing of our testimonies, right? And that we hold not on to our lives unto death. So when we understand that we are encouraged by the sharing of testimonies because someone else had a setback but then pushed through, made it, y'all, it allows me to be like, oh, okay, bet I'm about to push through. I'm about to see this through because I also know that Romans 2:11 tells me that God is not a respecter of persons. So I know that what he does for one, he'll also do unto another. Y'all, get around a supportive network. I'm telling you, it makes a big difference. Lastly, when we can shift our view from failure, hear me, is going to require a conscious effort. Like, you're not going to be able to just say, I'm changing my mindset, y'all, today. And then that's it. Like, no, you're going to have to put some action to that bad boy there. You're going to have to, like, literally be there to be like, when that thought comes through, you're going to have to outwardly cancel that, remove that, renounce and denounce that, and then speak the word of God all over you in the midst of that. Like, there's going to be this practical application that you're going to have to see. And you're going to have to understand that all these things that is happening around you, listen, treat them as tools that are teaching you something. Treat them as tools that are bringing you somewhere. Treat them as tools, right? I know I've heard for a few years now that people try to look at money, right? Income, wealth as a tool. See it as a tool to do the thing that you're called to do, right? So don't go after the manna of money. Don't try to worship money, but simply recognize that it's a tool, right? It's valuable because there's a tool there that allows you to do something else in exchange for services, right? So here's the key. If I can look at my situation as a tool that is going to be able to help me get from where I am to the next part, let me leverage that and do the same thing. If I know that what I've gone through here can encourage somebody, can inspire somebody, can uplift somebody, can be taught to somebody so they can move forward from what they're going through, then let me go ahead and package that thing that I've been through in a way where I could sell it as a service or a product. You catching. I hope you caught that, right? Because now I could sell that experience to other people who have been where I once was, so they too can come through on the other side of that. That's the concept there when we look at the fact that we're able to take those situations and develop the tools that are necessary to move forward. And we have to understand that we haven't considered these things as strengths. Maybe because we're not looking at them from that perspective. But when we can look at a weakness or as an area like that as our strength or as an area where we can develop it into a strength, then we can begin to say, oh my goodness, I got you. I got you. Because what looked like a situation that was supposed to knock you out, take you out, knock you down, keep you down, is really about to be the very thing that God is going to utilize to be able to thrust you forward as a catalyst. Because that's the type of God that we serve, who will use the very thing that try to take you out and bring it forth just to show others that look what I can do with the very thing that y'all try to bring at this person. Listen, I'm a living testimony of exactly that and more. So, in all, when we can face life's inevitable challenges head on, we build not only our endurance, but we also build the confidence that's necessary for continued self improvement. By embracing failures, we step into the unknown, prepared to learn and to flourish. We remember the greatness that comes not from avoiding failure, but from navigating through it. It is in the intricate design of our lives, y'all, from the setbacks that enriches our stories, each of our stories, because all of our stories are different and all of our stories are necessary and all of our stories are important. And it allows forth a narrative of perseverance, learning, and growth. So the next time, because y'all already heard me say it earlier, there will be a next time because that's what happens in life. A setback, or what y'all like to say, right? A stepping stone comes about in your life, I want you to do this. I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself this question. And better yet, don't just ask yourself, but take this into prayer and ask God, what is this experience supposed to teach me? How can I leverage this experience to forge me into a stronger and more resilient version of myself? Now, if you are ready, to take this to the next level, I want you to go ahead and join us January 16th, 2025 for our Redefine Her 30-day transformation journey. Because if any of this has resonated with you, then you definitely want to be in the room for those 30 days. You definitely want to be in the room where we're going forth talking about the different challenges, the different trials that may come up as we talk about how we're able to set smart goals, overcome, listen, issues of doubt, understanding, building a firm foundation when it comes to boundaries, getting us in play with the proper and effective routine. Because, y'all, consistency and time management, it is needed. I'm just saying, them habits, and more. When you can understand that there is a foundation that must be laid during your transformation journey to be able to keep you in a position and in a place to be able to go forth with the resilience and the endurance needed to become the future version of yourself, you can then shift what is happening around you. Maybe the present situation and circumstances doesn't change per se, but the way that you see it, the way that you understand setbacks, the way that you reframe your mind will allow you to be able to go forth and find the creative avenues that are right there in front of you. So, that is the end of today's episode. I hope you guys were all blessed by it. Don't forget to get your journal. She Did It is now available there. You'll have all the links in the description box. And you guys, I'm excited. 2025 is literally a week away. Y'all, this is wild. But don't allow any setbacks, any stepping stones, or any discouragement over this next week to keep you back from doing the things that you're already called to do. So, peace and blessings to each and every one of you guys. And don't forget to do what? Ignite your glow.